Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to dive into making some awesome deep dish pizza. I'm gonna make the crust from scratch, and then we're gonna make the sauce using some of my homemade tomato sauce, and then we're gonna make it into a delicious spicy pizza sauce. So let's get into it. This recipe is from spruceeats.com, and it calls for 1 2/3 cup of warm water, 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 cup of oil, and 4 cups of flour. This is a really simple recipe to make. It's got very few ingredients. What you will do is add your water, and I am tripling this batch for my family. You'll add your yeast, give it a gentle stir, and let it bloom. Bloom is a fancy word for activate. So we're gonna let it sit there for 5 minutes. You see how it's getting all fluffy right here? That's the yeast that's popped, if you will. It's bloomed from the depths of the water. And if it's not doing it fast enough for you, you can add a tiny amount of sugar because yeast feeds on sugar, and it'll help it to go a little bit faster. But this is looking really good. We're gonna leave it be. We are 5 minutes out, so it is time to add our salt and our flour and get to mixing. Start with 1 cup and mix it in. I'm going to start with 2 because I'm going with so much dough. And then stir it in well until it's nice and smooth. Don't worry about any small lumps. Those will come out as we add more flour. Now that we've got that mixed in well, we're gonna add some more flour, just a little bit at a time. And I forgot I'm using a 2-cup measuring cup here, so I've already added 4 cups. So this will be 6 for me. I'm gonna be adding 12 total. Time to get my hands dirty. Take off a ring if you don't want to have to clean out the dough. I'm going to need 2 more cups, roughly. I'm going to go ahead and add most of that. You can see it's definitely still sticky, so I need more flour. And I gave myself extra in case I needed more dough. Depending on how humid or dry it is, you could use more or less flour, so you've just got to go by feel. When it's not as sticky and it's smooth, then you're good to go. All I'm doing here is just scooping it up from the bottom, folding it over and pressing to press in and incorporate that flour. And it turns over and exposes the stickier part so that it can actually adhere to the flour and get it mixed in. I'm going to be adding just slow amounts, little amounts of flour at a time because you don't want to go too far. But I do still need more flour. It's still a bit sticky. At this point, I'm using my knuckles to kind of push it in. And then roll it, grab some of the flour that's still on the sides, and keep kneading. You can see as I'm pushing on it now, it's not sticking to me. It's not overly dry. I'm gonna curve it into a ball. Tucking the underneath part in, kind of give it a twist. I'm gonna get some oil and put over it so it doesn't dry out because we're gonna let this sit and rise for 2 hours so it doubles in size. And I'm just flipping it over like this, and then that coats the whole thing. Now we're going to cover it with a towel and let it set for 2 hours. For our homemade quick and easy pizza sauce, I've got this recipe from ohsweetbasil.com. For our sauce, we're going to turn our pan onto medium heat, and we're going to add our oil and our butter and let them start heating up. And the recipe says to heat this to a simmer, so you want it to be pretty warm before we start adding in our spices. All right, I can see it bubbling on the side here, so I'm going to add in our spices and let them bloom for 30 seconds to a minute, stirring it in. And then we're going to quickly add our brown sugar here, our water, our cheese, and our sauce. I'm gonna stir these in. That looks good there, so I'm gonna add in our sugar. I'm adding in our cheese now. Our water. Give that a stir. And our sauce. Any canned sauce will do. I also need to add in the tomato paste. It calls for 4 tablespoons for each one, so I'm gonna need 16 tablespoons total. let me stir this in with the salt and pepper. Then we're gonna turn down that heat and let it simmer while the dough is rising. There we go. While our dough is rising and our sauce is happily simmering away over there, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other prep that I need to do for these pizzas, which is to slice our pepperoni. I'm gonna be using Boar's Head traditional pepperoni with a natural casing. This is what I can source from our H-E-B here, but you can use any kind of pepperoni that you want. And you can slice these as thick or as thin as you want. Feeding a crowd, some slice pretty thin so it'll spread out. The other things that we're going to use for the pizza, like the mozzarella cheese and the bacon and ham slices and ground beef, I already have prepped and I pulled them out of the freezer to defrost. So all I have to do is this and the dough and the sauce and we're ready to go. When it gets to the end, because of how wonky the ends are, kind of squished on some of them, I like to flip it over so I can cut them more easily and more controlled. And then I get the last piece in the middle of the log of pepperoni. Just makes it a little bit easier, I've found. And then just to have a little more control, I like to wrap around and gently slice down so I don't have to worry about it folding like the first one did. There we go. All right, I'm gonna stick these in the fridge until we're ready for them. It is pizza making time. So all I do for this is I'm gonna be separating this into two different pans. So I'm just gonna cut off some. If you're doing two equal sized pans, you can do it in half. You can weigh it out if you want to. I'm gonna just transfer it over here and start spreading it out. And I've got a bunch of olive oil in the bottom of this pan to give that deep dish texture. And it's okay if some gets on the top of the crust. I'm gonna reserve this little bit to make some breadsticks here in a minute. What I'm gonna do now is ladle on my sauce. You can go as heavy or as light on the sauce as you want. It's all to your preference. Definitely have plenty of sauce for dipping and saving for next time. So I'll let that cool off completely, put it in some containers and stick it in the freezer and label it well. And now I have even one more further step ready to go for making pizza next time for the family. I'm going pretty heavy on the sauce because my guys tend to like that, but you can do as much or as little as you want. All right, that looks really good there. So what we're gonna do now is take us over to the stove and put on the rest of our toppings. Preheat your oven to 500 degrees for this, and we're going to be baking them for 15 minutes. So I'm gonna open up my mozzarella, pull out some, kind of break it apart, and spread it evenly around on the pizza. It's a very soft cheese, so it kind of tends to get a little bit more clumped up. That is okay. It will melt very well. Okay, that looks pretty good there because that's going to melt and spread out some. So now what I'm going to do is take my pepperonis because they're more flat. I'm going to spread them around. You can make this neat and orderly. You can just dump them on. It really just depends on what you want to go for and how much time you have. I'm going to make this one pepperoni. So I'm going to do another layer and do it double pepperoni. The other one, I'm going to do a meat lovers. And then I'm gonna do some cheese on top. I always like the way it looks with the finish as opposed to just leaving the pepperoni, but you do what you like. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in the oven for the 15 minutes and get started on topping the other one. I'm gonna add on some ham, and this I just roughly sprinkle over top till it looks evenly spread to me. Ground beef. And you could do Italian sausage if you want. It's not my preference on my pizzas, but you use whatever toppings you love. I'm gonna top this one with this cheese, and it'll go into the other oven. All right. While we're waiting for that pizza to be done, I need to put together the breadsticks. Taking that last little bit of dough, putting it on a cookie sheet with some parchment paper, I'm gonna spread it out, cut it into 8 pieces, unless you wanna do little Parmesan type bites. And then I'm gonna bake it for 8 to 10 minutes, and then I'll show you how I make a garlic butter sauce. Cut it in half. So you have 4 pieces over here, 4 pieces over here. And roughly in half again, in half, there we go. So once I pull out one of the pizzas, I'll put this into an oven and bake it for, like I said, for 8 to 10 minutes, and then we'll top it with the butter sauce. For the garlic butter sauce, what we're going to do is melt about 3/4 of a stick of butter for this batch. Add in some garlic powder. You can do some fresh garlic if you'd like to. I just don't want the chunks. This is half a teaspoon, and I think that'll be perfect for this amount. We're gonna melt that in the microwave for about 30 to 45 seconds and stir it. Let's give this a little stir. So whenever the breadsticks do come out of the oven, and actually even when the pizza comes out of the oven, you can take this and put some around on the crust, but you'll spread this over the breadsticks and then top it with some fresh Parmesan cheese. I've got some Parmesan Romano cheese here from H-E-B that I'm gonna sprinkle on top, and it'll be perfect. I did leave this pizza in for 2 more minutes just to make absolutely sure that the middle part was done. It looks beautiful. All right, so for cutting a pizza this big, this would be a large. To make the pieces not be quite so crazy, cut across the middle as straight as you can. And then what you're gonna do is come over and make however big you want your wedge to be and cut a piece across that way. I'm gonna turn my cutting board, and you find roughly the middle, and you cut across there. And then you split this one in half, go across the middle, and this one in half and go across the middle, and you're done. And this makes the pieces a lot more manageable. You could go even smaller if you wanted to, and you can do huge if you want. All right, and there's our pepperoni pizza. I'm gonna make sure this one's free because a little sauce did get on the side and that can kind of stick. But with all the oil, it comes off very easy. Cut this real quick because we have a minute until our breadsticks are done. This one I'm gonna cut in squares like we used to at Little Caesars. This one's gonna make 9 squares. So we're gonna cut it in thirds both ways. You could do it in a circle, but I figured it'd be fun to go old school. The reason I'm kind of cutting in like this from the top some is I'm trying not to scrape all the toppings off as I cut through because it's awfully thick. Look how pretty those look. If you want them to get puffier before baking, you can always let them rise for 10-15 minutes. Just let them rest after you've mashed them out and sliced them, and then you can throw them in the oven. But I'm okay with them like this too. Delicious. And then, like I said, you can take some of this butter sauce and just tap it on the crust to give a garlic butter sauce. I used to do that at Little Caesars back when I worked there. And you could sprinkle Parmesan on there, all kinds of things. Sesame seeds, if I remember right, they kind of weren't always used. People either didn't know or just didn't order them. And then we take our cheese and we just shake it over. And there's our crazy bread, so to speak, our beautiful breadsticks. Well, there we have it. We have made a huge pepperoni pizza and a medium to large, depending on where you are, deep dish meat lovers pizza and some breadsticks. I can't wait for my family to dig in, and I hope you had a great time hanging out with me in the kitchen today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you the next time. Bye.